as we enter into what may be the final round, and probably is at least this, at most the second to last set of final turn. Blue is starting things off, but everybody's kind of chosen to improve their positions on the board. Now, nobody's taken a progress marker yet, and you got to be kind of careful here, because this guy may be the guy who chooses whether or not progress happens. If nobody picks it on the last round, it'll be a situation where he may be sitting with the only opportunity to make that choice, and may choose, hey, I'm not going to win this progress race, so I'll do something else. Other people all have the option if they look like they're clearly in the lead in the progress field. But it's always dangerous to just slap your stuff down in these. It's fairly likely you'll be able to have an option, especially with consultants and troubleshooters and stuff like that, to be able to force the progress to happen if you want it. But it's an action that's taken that's not going to be moving you directly forward or doing anything else. It may give you an immediate chip that you can use within that progress, though, so that's kind of neat. Given what I just said there about the immediate chip to use on progress, I bet you if you take a Rainmaker for funding, you're allowed to use him immediately when the funding itself actually takes place. I've not been allowing that. I think I'll start allowing that at this point. The Rainmaker is not terribly valuable in the situation that I've got going, because everybody's kind of got enough cash flow and enough cash on hand to handle things. And in fact, Payday didn't even get selected the last time we ran. Sort of up in the air whether anyone would even play for the progress chip. Red went for it. I'm not sure they're in the best position here, but they've got 2 plays in the progress, but so does everyone else. Out of it, though, they're getting an additional immediate team, assuming no one else jumps in for that little benefit, whatever. Otherwise, I'd say, they're kind of doing pretty poorly in a lot of ways, although they're near the top in 2. Well, we could do a quick count. They're at 14, 15, 16. Let's look at blue. 14, 17, 14, 16, 3, 7, 14. It's a pretty tight and close game. And I think what they decided was there really weren't a lot of chips that would have helped them at all. This one at least gives them a bonus and triggers the progress. And, if you're left with no good dice, maybe the next turn wouldn't be quite so even. Maybe somebody will gain some moves on them. In particular, there were no good other black dice available. They were closed out. The consultant was played, but it's been a tendency of players as we're getting closer to the end to roll both black dice with the... That kind of screws people. They're not great options usually. Your best options, well, you want to get your technologies up there, and then maybe you want to get a higher. Nobody's doing any other black actions except for a funding up here, which is kind of iffy if Payday is not coming up, because it may well be over here. We'll see. Blue is kind of shaky on their Payday situation, although they've got 2 public funding in place. That should help them significantly. Nobody's doing hiring, although 3 of the players have already committed to a hiring action if that is chosen. And now we're on the end, which is Blue's roll. And we'll see what they do. What a weird defensive play going on here. Maybe not that weird. Blue and red, the first 2 players to select, have taken steal something from other people. Steal a specialist. Well, with them obviously getting the biggest advantage from hiring, nobody's going to pick hiring. And what we actually see is Payday being picked here. And this guy actually steals the bonus on progress from him. And one of the few ways that he could get someone added to his staff of workers. We'll see what happens. He might be laying off some whites simply because he may not be able to match his Payday. He's got quite a problem there, and not a whole lot of extra cash. I don't think it's going to end, because I don't think anybody's going to shoot it up to that 4 red flying car. That's a hard job to do. I think we're not going to see it end here. So, what do we do? Well, this guy's first, and he gets to take funding, and he's going to get to grab a dude, and he also gets to bump up some of his funding. He's got the Rainmaker, so his private's going to go up 2, and his public's going to go up 1, so he's going to be in pretty good shape. Nobody else has a Rainmaker. I was wrong. This guy's ability to steal a bonus here, he actually has to take another piece. It doesn't really matter what he takes. He can take anything. He'll take a red guy for his progress. He was able to actually end the game here. Now, it's not over yet. We have to go through the rest of the turn, I believe. I think that's how it's phased. Immediately after the phase. Well, the only phase where you can get up to here is the table resolution phase. Actually, I think it is this particular phase. And it doesn't really matter, because after progress, nobody's going to be able to score anything anyway. So this is the end of the game. We'll see what other people do. He was able to chalk things up. He needed 4 red there, but he had 2 of he was able to steal with his funding one of the purple cubes, which got him a second red essentially for up here that he was able to run. So now he's in a pretty good position. He doesn't have blue all the way up, but he's got these 2 all the way up, and blue in a fairly median position, which looks much better than any of the other players. We'll see what people end up doing. So over here, he's the next guy with advances, and none of this shit matters at all. He's got as many advances as he needs in blue, I'd guess. 1, 2, 3. No, not quite. And red. So he needs 4 red to get the advance, but let's see how far he can get advanced in the blue here. Because he's right up there with that. So he'd actually be in the lead if he can pump blue up high enough. So I need 2 blue and 2 white to get me here. Make it 3 blue and 2 white to get here. My other color is just going to take 2 red. So I've got the blues and the whites that I need. And for the reds, I've got 2 that'll get me as far as here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to make it here, because I got the 3 blues, the whites, everything. And now for this one, I only need 2 red, so I'm up there. And I think I've probably got it right now with 24 points sitting there. That was a pretty big jump. Who picked it? This guy picked the progress. We'll see what he can do with it. He's got 4 on white. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's going to require 3 blue. He easily has that. He's only going to need reds elsewhere. 1, 2, 3, 4. And 2 red. Here's where his problem is. There's his 2 red. If he had picked red, he would only need 2 more red and could push his way up. But instead he needs 3 red. And he doesn't have that. He only has 2. So the question then becomes between the 2 and the 3 points here. So I'm going to ditch down to only using 1 red to get up to here. So I need 3 blue, 2 white, and a red. Well, I've got all that. And I can go 1, 2, 3. But here, on the blue, I can punch forward with this. And that's only going to get me 10, 17, 22 points. I'm not going to get the lead. And, yeah, I got beat out on progress. That's the problem. I would have been fine on progress. He's the one who took it. And he won the game by it, I think. And in fact, if he hadn't taken it, I think red would have won. Let's see what the next... And it just comes down to the turn ordering, because everybody's been playing pretty well, I think, or at least fairly close. Let's see what he can do. He's got 4 on the white. Now, he only needs 2 white, and that'll cost him a white and 2 red. But he has almost nothing on his sheet that he can... I'm sorry, that would be the red chip. He needs a white and 2 red to pump his way all the way up there. That's a lot of points, though. I think he may actually get the 24. or beat it. So I needed a white and the 2 reds. Now I have 2 blues, a white, and a blue or a white. I need 3 blues. I don't need whites at all. That gets me to here. I don't have the reds. That's 24 points as well, isn't it? Because I got the white and 2 reds here, right? So I'm at 24 as well. Okay, is there a tiebreaker? The one having more pawns at the ends of tracks wins. Blue has 2, purple has 2. They've still tied the share victory. You could kind of run down this way, but then you'd still end up as a tie as blue and purple are here. That's a pretty nice finish, actually. 24 points for blue, 17, 22 for red. Green at 24 as well. Is that right? Green actually is going to lose out because blue and purple are ahead of them here, so they come in a very close second, and then red 2 points behind in third. So, you know, I think as I got used to the game, I got very, very comfortable with the kind of challenge to the balance and everything with it. I'm a little worried that this is a game which kind of falls to one decision point. So, notably, the person who is going to be the one who can steal the lead is determined right at the beginning of the game, and that doesn't get any kind of randomization. I'm very worried that the person in this seat, if everybody plays very well, on 5 players it's a different person, right? But that the seat which controls the most important decision making at the very end of the game has a little bit of an advantage on everyone else. This is something that games like Dominant Species make up for by allowing you to kind of put some of your choices into what order you're going to go in. That makes the game a little bit more complex in terms of the decision making there, but does make it so that that last turn advantage goes away. Now, if people are very familiar with the game and very good at it, they may take that last turn advantage into mind in terms of, well, you know, we're all about equal, but that guy's got a little bit of an edge on all of us because he's got the last turn advantage. Let's hit him. Even though he's a little behind, maybe, let's hit him because he can catch up in ways that the rest of us can't. And of course, that filters down through the whole sequence. That's a level of complexity to the decision-making process, though, that's probably as high as adding that, hey, what turn order do you want to do? What kind of seating order do you want to do? Either one would be plausible, though, to have some sort of place where you can put your little winks or tokens that indicate what you're doing into kind of a reordering the seating or the sequence of play could be of some value to this game. But I think that the kind of thought that would be required for that isn't too much more intuitive than the kind of thought that would be involved in protecting yourself just a little bit more. This isn't just a who's in the best situation, but you have to account for that seating order in there. Some people might be disturbed by that, though. All right, so we're done, and I'll come back with a review. And we finished up pretty quickly. One last note. I screwed up the rules. It played out pretty damn well, regardless of the screw-up. But Rick pointed out, well, a couple of things. One is that the coins aren't very visible, that I could have had them over here. You know, I don't know how much the coins really made a difference. So, for example, this guy at the end had only 4 coins. In particular, maybe the winks are even harder to see. I don't know. The coins look pretty visible to me through my monitor, but and I never watch on the computer, so I don't know. But the issue that I screwed up with, and this is a biggie in terms of changing the game significantly, is there is a restriction. Only one wink is permitted per row per player. So, for example, a play like this would have been illegal, or like this. It's kind of interesting because it says, advancing, it adds some additional complexity to it. Because, for example, advancing in red is going to be difficult towards the end of the game on the time travel track. That could add some additional trouble to it. I found the game played pretty well without that rule. So, I can see where that adds another slight layer to the whole thing. In particular, though, it actually takes away from that last turn advantage I was talking about in the final run through there, which is if you can only pick one black thing, well, that reduces some of your availability to be able to really kind of dominate the advantages here, picking the one that someone else took for the advantage again and again and again. You can do it once, but that's it. Of course, that other person is closed out. They're not going to get another advantage, but the other 2-3 players will. Now, in 2 players, I believe you're allowed to make 2 selections per row. Yeah. Only in the black row. And in 3 players, there's the automatic progress, whether you do it or whether somebody picks it or not. I have no idea how much that auto progress is going to affect the game, but I'll tell you, with the 2 picks per row, for 2 players, you have 6 winks in that game. So you get 1, 2, 3, 4. So in the normal game, you have to get 1 wink in each row, which actually means if you're playing 4 players or more, you're going to always have progress anyway. So that's another factor, is that all the phases will be triggered. In the 3-player game, you're always going to have progress, and in the 2-player game, you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 winks. You're only going to have 1 in each row, and you're going to have these all filled out again. So, yeah, I played a different game. There's no question of that. A pretty seriously different game, actually. Yet, I still think that it was an interesting playthrough. Unfortunately, I don't know. It's hard to tell how those differences are going to fully affect things. The game will play out more quickly, though, if people can't control these. And I'm actually kind of intrigued by the game that I made up accidentally. This happened with some other games, too, where, I missed an important rule, but came up with something that was kind of neat. Just, whoops. Anyway, there you have my playthrough. And I think my overall feel of the game isn't going to be changed too much. So I'm going to just go ahead and review it as it stands. However, I guess the game that I played has some... Basically, there's different layers between the 2 games. So the game that Rick designed is going to progress in a more stately and smooth manner. The game that I played has some interesting little tweaks in terms of being able to control what actions are actually taken. Now, the only place you're going to have that kind of control... What the hell happens in a 5-player game? See, in a 5-player game, you're not going to be able to play one of your winks for one of the players. Right? Because they can fill, these 4 get filled, everybody's got 1 in one of these, and you still have 5 winks. That's kind of weird. I wonder what that's going to mean. But yeah, in 4 or less, you're always going to see the same kind of progression going forward. Well, that's not entirely true. So in a 5-player game, somebody's going to waste a piece up on the black row. That's all. And you may not know that you're wasting the piece when you play it, because you're probably someone who selects early when you do so. But yeah, it does make for more planning, in the sense of having to worry about, well, if I take this dye to fill this, it means I'm not going to get a progress in that color when maybe I want to do it. So maybe I'll have to take something else that's less important to me. Towards the end of the game, the funding, people stopped using that. It would still be eating up a die on everybody's track. So there's definitely some differences. But the core is solid enough that it could take that kind of tweaking accidentally or whatever and still come up with what looks like a pretty enjoyable game.